Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. Alaska is a very big place with long coasts. These coasts are next to the Pacific Ocean. On a normal day, the coast of Alaska is calm and beautiful. The water is often blue. Tall, green mountains stand behind the land. Many trees cover the hills. Sometimes the sun shines brightly. Other times clouds are gray. Birds fly over the water and fish swim in the cold sea. Small towns sit by the ocean. People live simple lives there, often working with the sea. They fish and enjoy the peace of nature. The air is clean and fresh. It is a wild and beautiful part of the world. This beauty can make people feel safe. But nature is always powerful and it can change quickly. This story begins in such a quiet setting before the change came. But under this calm and beautiful sea, something very old and very big sleeps. Deep below the ocean floor, hidden from sight, there is a powerful secret. It is a part of the earth itself, where huge pieces of land meet and move. This natural power can make the ground shift. It can make the earth tremble with great force. Most days, this power is quiet. It stays sleeping deep under the water. People on the land do not feel it. But sometimes this giant power wakes up. When it wakes, it can change everything. It can make the ground move very hard, shaking buildings. And it can make the ocean move in a big, dangerous way. This great power is always there, waiting beneath the waves. It is a strong reminder that the earth is alive and always moving. We must respect its immense strength. This story is about one such day. It was a day when the quiet beauty of Alaska changed. The ground shook with a powerful rumble. The big, sleeping power under the sea began to wake up. The ocean threatened to send huge waves to the shore. People felt sudden fear. They had to act fast to stay safe. This story is a lesson for us all. It shows how strong nature can be. It shows how quickly a calm day can turn to worry. It shows how people react to danger. It tells about how towns and cities and the government worked together. They worked to keep people safe. It tells about a big warning given to everyone. It tells about how people move to higher ground. It tells about the long wait for news, and it tells about what happened next. It is a story about a big challenge and quick action. It is a story about hope. It is a story about a day Alaska remembered and a lesson about the power of the earth and the spirit of its people. 2. A normal day. The sun rose slowly over the coast of Alaska. It was a normal morning in many small towns. People woke up. They drank coffee and ate breakfast. The air was cool and fresh. Birds sang. The ocean was calm and blue. Life moved at a quiet pace. No one thought this day would be different from any other. In the small town of Sand Point, a fisherman named Tom started his day early. Sand Point is on Popoff Island. About 580 people live there. Tom walked to his boat. He checked his fishing nets. He made sure his engine was ready. He had fished these waters for many years. The sea was his home. He looked at the calm water. It promised a good day for fishing. His boat moved slowly out of the harbor. Farther away in Kodiak, the Peterson family was busy. Kodiak is a bigger town. About 5,200 people live there. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson were in the kitchen. Their 2 children, Sarah and Ben, ate cereal. Sarah talked about her school friends. Ben asked about playing outside later. Mrs. Peterson packed lunch boxes. Mr. Peterson read the local newspaper. It was a typical morning for them. They planned their day, work, school, and then dinner together. At a special government center, a scientist named Dr. Anya Sharma watched her computer screens. She worked with the Alaska Earthquake Center. Her job was to look at data from the ground. Many lines moved on her screens. These lines showed the Earth's movements. Today, the lines were flat and calm. There were no big shakes. There were no unusual signals. Dr. Sharma checked her notes. Everything was quiet. The Earth was sleeping. People in Sand Point, Kodiak, and other towns went about their lives. Fishermen went to sea. Children went to school. Parents went to work. Scientists watched their machines. Everyone expected the day to be calm. It was a predictable day, like many days before it. The quiet beauty of Alaska was all around them. The deep secret under the sea floor remained sleeping. No one knew that this normal day would soon change. 3. The big shake. The quiet calm of the afternoon was suddenly broken. Without warning, the earth began to move. It was not a small movement, but a very strong shake. Buildings in towns along the southern coast of Alaska started to tremble. Inside homes, cups tumbled from kitchen shelves, crashing onto floors. Pictures hanging on walls swung wildly, then fell down, landing with soft thuds or loud cracks. Lamps swayed from ceilings and furniture slid across rooms. Dishes rattled inside cupboards and windows vibrated loudly in their frames. It was a chaotic moment. People everywhere felt the ground roll. It felt like a big wave was moving under their feet, making it hard to stand still. For a few long moments, the world seemed to tilt and sway violently. The shaking was strong enough to be felt across a very large area. From small fishing villages like Sand Point to bigger communities like Kodiak, everyone felt the powerful jolt. The noise was also loud, a low rumble that came from deep under the ground. It sounded like a giant train passing very close by or a massive roar from the earth itself. This big earthquake happened off the coast of a group of Alaskan islands. It was around 12:37 in the afternoon local time. The center of the earthquake was about 54 miles from the village of Sand Point. It was also very deep, about 12 miles under the sea. The United States Geological Survey said it was a magnitude 7.3 earthquake. This is a very strong number for an earthquake, showing its great power and potential for damage. Alaska is a place where many earthquakes happen often. It is known as a big earthquake zone. In fact, 4 out of 5 earthquakes in the United States happen in Alaska. While some are small and not felt at all, this one was different. It was large and powerful, making its presence known to thousands of people. It was a serious event that no one could ignore, a clear display of nature's immense force. The moment the shaking began, fear started to spread quickly. People were confused. What was happening? Why was the ground moving so much? They looked at each other, their faces showing deep worry. Children cried out in surprise and fear. Adults tried to understand what was happening, some rushing to protect their families, others simply frozen in place. The normal, predictable day had suddenly turned into a moment of great uncertainty. Every second felt very long. Everyone wondered if the shaking would stop or what would happen next. The big shake had changed everything in an instant, bringing a new kind of quiet, a quiet filled with questions and a deep sense of unease. The initial shock was over, but the confusion and a feeling of danger remained for everyone across the region. 4. The warning comes. The ground stopped moving. A strange quiet filled the air. People looked at each other. They were confused and a little scared. The big shake had ended, but a new fear began to grow. Everyone wondered what would happen next. Then a new sound began. Phones made a loud, sharp noise. It was an emergency alert. Sirens also started wailing in the towns along Alaska's southern coast. The sound was very serious. It meant danger was near. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration had issued a tsunami warning. The message was clear. A tsunami warning has been issued, it said. A tsunami is a very big, dangerous wave. It can happen after a strong earthquake when the land under the sea moves greatly. These waves can travel fast and hit the coast with great power. The warning told everyone to move to high ground. Go to a safe place far from the ocean, it warned. In Sand Point, a small town of about 580 people, the warning came quickly. This village was very close to where the earthquake happened. People there knew they had to act fast. They quickly started to move away from the water. In Kodiak, a larger community of about 5,200 people, police used social media. They told residents to go to local elementary and high schools, which were safe shelters on higher ground. Families grabbed what they could and left their homes. In other towns like Unalaska, a fishing community, and King Cove, officials gave clear instructions. They told people to go at least 50 feet above sea level. They also said to move 1 mile inland, away from the coast. This was to be safe from any big waves that might come. The U.S. Coast Guard also moved its personnel from their base in Kodiak to higher ground. They had 2 air crews ready to help if needed. Everyone knew time was short. The first waves were expected to reach Sand Point soon. People walked, ran, or drove to higher places. They looked at the ocean with worry. The race to find safety had begun. It was a race against the powerful sea. They hoped to be safe before the big wave arrived. Many people felt fear, but they also felt strong. They worked together to help each other. The warning had come. Now they had to act fast. 5. The government watches. The news of the strong earthquake quickly traveled across the country. Far away in Washington, D.C., leaders learned about the big shake in Alaska. The United States Geological Survey, a government group, said the earthquake had a magnitude of 7.3. It happened at 12:37 in the afternoon local time. The center of the quake was about 54 miles from Sand Point, and it was about 12 miles deep. Soon after the Earth moved, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, sent out a tsunami warning. This warning was for a large part of Alaska's southern coast. It included areas from Kennedy Entrance to Unimak Pass, a distance of about 700 miles. All of Kodiak Island, Chignik, and Cold Bay were also under this serious warning. The warning said that a small tsunami wave was possible. People in these areas were told to be ready. The president's team in Washington, D.C. was quickly told about the danger. They knew that many people in Alaska needed to be safe. The president made a statement to the country. He said that the government would send all necessary help to Alaska if it was needed. leaders from different parts of the country began to work together. The U.S. Coast Guard, for example, moved its people from their base in Kodiak to higher ground. They also had 2 air crews ready to fly and assist. Other places, like the Pacific Northwest, checked their own coastlines. Washington Emergency Management looked at information from special buoys in the ocean. They shared a message that there was no danger for Washington state. Oahu Emergency Management in Hawaii also said there was no threat to their islands. Anchorage, Alaska's largest city, was also safe, even though some people there received an alert. Government groups and emergency services watched the situation very closely. They used many tools to get information. Scientists at the Alaska Earthquake Center and the National Tsunami Warning Center continued to gather data. This helped them understand the event better. Local leaders in Alaska worked closely with national leaders and agencies. They all tried to manage the situation and keep everyone safe. It was a time when the whole country watched and waited. 6. The long wait. People gathered on hills and in safe buildings. In the town of Kodiak, many residents moved to the local elementary school and high school. These places were used as emergency shelters. In Sand Point, a community of about 580 people, everyone moved to higher ground. The same urgent movement happened in Unalaska, a fishing town with about 4,100 people, and in King Cove, which had about 870 residents. People moved at least 50 feet above sea level. Some went 1 mile inland. Everyone waited. They watched the ocean with worried eyes. The wind was quiet. The air was cold. A deep silence settled over the land. Every minute felt very long, stretching out like an endless day. Children asked their parents, "Is it coming?" Their voices were small and full of fear. Parents tried to smile, but their hearts were heavy with worry. Old people sat quietly, their minds remembering past dangers. The heavy silence was broken only by the soft sound of the wind or the distant cry of a bird. People held hands, finding comfort in touch. They looked at each other, sharing unspoken fears. No one spoke loudly, as if a loud noise might wake the sleeping danger. Far away in government centers, scientists worked without rest. They sat in front of many computer screens. Lights blinked quickly. Numbers changed on the displays. Seismologists watched data about the earthquake, looking for any more ground movement. The Tsunami Warning Center focused on special buoys in the sea. These buoys, called dart buoys, float on the water and send important information. They measure the ocean's depth and any changes in water level. They can tell if a big wave is truly coming. One dart buoy was located near Sand Point. Scientists watched its data very closely. This buoy was expected to show the first clear signs of a tsunami. They hoped it would show nothing dangerous. They hoped the ocean would stay calm. They hoped the waves would be very small or not come at all. They hoped for good news. The scientists worked quickly, sharing information and talking on phones. They knew many people were waiting and scared. Their job was to give the most accurate information as fast as possible. They looked at all the signs, checking data from many points. Initial signs from the buoys suggested only small changes in sea level. This was a hopeful sign, meaning the wave might not be big, but they had to be absolutely sure. They kept watching, kept waiting for more information. Everyone, both the people on the hills and the scientists in their offices, waited for the long wait to end. They hoped for safety for all. 7. The small wave. The first reports came in. People waited and watched the news. The information was very good. The big wave, the tsunami, was not dangerous. It was very small. Scientists had watched special buoys in the sea carefully. One buoy, located near Sand Point, measured the water. It showed a rise of only 0.2 feet. This is about 3 inches. It was a very small wave, not a large and powerful one that could cause harm. Because the wave was so small, the Tsunami Warning Center changed its message. The strong warning that told everyone to evacuate became an advisory. This meant the danger was much less. People still needed to be careful, but the immediate threat was gone. Later, the advisory was canceled completely. There was no longer any threat from the sea. The great danger had passed. Everyone could breathe easily again. People felt a lot of relief. They had waited for a long time, watching the ocean and listening to the news. They had worried about their homes, their boats, and their towns. Many had moved to high ground, leaving everything behind. Now they knew they were safe. There were no initial reports of any damage from the earthquake itself or from the small wave. The strong shaking did not break buildings or cause serious problems. The small ocean wave did not hurt anything at all. In Kodiak, the police department informed residents they could leave the emergency shelters. In Sand Point, the first waves were projected to land, but they were tiny, just a few inches high. Nothing was damaged there. Officials said that the early signs were very good. They said everyone was on the lucky side today. The Coast Guard personnel who had evacuated from their base at Kodiak could now go back. The air crews that were ready to help were no longer needed. The communities that had moved to high ground could now return to their homes. People in places like Unalaska and King Cove, who went to higher places, could go back to their normal lives. Even though the earthquake was strong, measuring 7.3 magnitude, the sea did not cause big problems. The fear that had gripped the coast slowly went away. Everyone was safe. The small wave was a clear sign that the worst had not happened. Life could slowly go back to normal. The long wait was finally over and the ocean was calm again. 8. A lesson from the sea. The sun began to set. Slowly, people started to leave the safe places. They walked down from the hills and out of the shelters. In Kodiak, families returned from the elementary school and high school. In Sand Point, the 50-foot mark above sea level was no longer needed. People went back to their homes. They were careful but also hopeful. They looked at their houses and shops. There were no broken windows. Nothing had fallen from shelves. The streets were clear. There were no reports of any damage. The strong earthquake had shaken the ground, but it did not break things. The small wave that came after was not dangerous. It was just a tiny rise in the water. A special buoy near Sand Point measured it. The water rose only about 3 inches. It was a very small tsunami. The Tsunami Warning Center said that a tsunami had happened, but it was no longer a threat. They said some areas might still see very small changes in sea level. Michael West, a scientist who studies earthquakes, said they were lucky. The early signs showed that everyone was safe. The warning was first a big alarm. Then it became a smaller advisory. Finally, it was canceled completely. This event showed the great power of nature. Alaska is a place where earthquakes happen often. 4 out of 5 earthquakes in the United States happen there. The ground moves under the sea. This can make big waves. People learned that nature can be very strong. But this event also taught an important lesson about people. Communities worked together. In Unalaska, officials told people to move at least 50 feet above the sea. In King Cove, people in the coastal area went to higher ground. The police in Kodiak told people about shelters. The U.S. Coast Guard moved its workers to safe places. Everyone followed the rules. Government systems also worked well. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration gave the first warning. Then, they watched the data from buoys in the deep ocean. When they saw the wave was small, they changed the warning. Different agencies talked to each other. They made sure places like Washington State, Hawaii, and Anchorage were not in danger. They used information to keep everyone calm and safe. The day was like a serious practice. It showed how communities and government systems can work together. They can keep people safe when danger is near. The sea taught them a lesson. It showed its power, but it also showed the power of being ready and working together.